Hi, I'm Darren Walker. Tonight on the season finale of Inside Louisiana Baseball, I sit down with head coach Tony Robichaux to recap the 2019 season and we look ahead to 2020. Later, we catch up with a star on and off the field, Track's Dom Williams. But first, Coach Robichaux joins me to discuss last week's Sun Belt Conference tournament. You're watching Inside Louisiana Baseball. Welcome to the final Inside Louisiana Baseball of the 2019 season. Darren Walker joined as always by the head coach Tony Robichaux. And coach, let's talk about the Sun Belt Conference tournament. It was a lot like the season, small sample size, but some missed opportunities. You got really good pitching at times, but then again it let you down at times. You scored an average of 6 runs a game while you were there, but you could have used another hit or two, timely hit. So just summarize the tournament.
Well, I agree with you. Going into it, you try to run away from who you are, right? And that's so tough in sport. Most of the time, your record says who you are. And the biggest thing you hope for is that you can get in there and do some things maybe that are against who you are. Mm-hmm. And at first, the first game, their guy, we knew he was going to be good, so the score was going to come down, so we had to match him, which we did. Brandon threw a good game for us, and then Perrin came in from behind him, and that's a perfect setup for us, and then Gunner as a closer. The difference is now is we let a tough season put ourselves in that. Mm-hmm. That should have been our first real game, and then now when you're moving into your second game, it's in what I call a real game. The first game is a play-in game, so you waste, in my opinion, I know it's designed for what it's there for. It's to make people burn up people, because mm-hmm. that's the advantage of being in there as the number 1 seed, right. And that's shame on us for being in the position we were in. So we got by the first one, which is a do-or-die situation, and then the next game we get a great start. And then we let the game get away from us again, and then we answered, and then they got us, and then we answered, and they got us, and they answered, and we got us, and most of the stuff was self-inflicted. We don't throw a ball to first base straight, and we pull the first baseman off and gives them momentum. We have a pass ball, then a sac fly with the runner from second to third. Well, he doesn't score if we don't throw the pass ball. So, when you play on the edge, you got to do the little things. And so in the run production, you can look at who won it. The guys that won it, Coastal, they were averaging 11, 12 runs a game. And mm-hmm. we said that at the beginning of the tournament, that somebody probably can hit their way through this, but you're going to have to hit simply because the pitching this year was so average in our league, mm-hmm. and Coastal did the best job of scoring the amount of runs they did, but our guys did score enough runs for us. They answered back every time the pitching staff gave up a run, they came back and got one. We gave up one, they got one, but then eventually we didn't get one and we gave them one, so we lost. And then the next game we come back, we get off to a good start. Savoy gets a good start for us as a true freshman, and then all of a sudden, the game, they hit a 2-run jack. He comes out, it's a manageable game. It's like 4-2 maybe, or 4-3, somewhere in there. But then we give up 6 runs out of the bullpen, and that's what did us in. So you're right, it was almost a microcosm of our season. So, we got to get back and really revamp our pitching staff and get it back on track. We've been so fortunate, the last 20 years of being either the number 1, number 2 pitching staff in this league, and this year we sunk, some of it due to injury, some of it due to lack of experience, and so we've got to revamp that and get back next year. Our hitting, I think, has worked out good as the season wore on. We really started to score. I think the hitting system kicked in, so I feel real good about it because now guys are coming back and they know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. I just think we have to build a bullpen and build some quality starters.
Let's talk about a couple of the guys that you mentioned, Brandon and Austin Perrin. Really stepped in on that first game and did a great job. Really gave you a chance to win that one.
Yeah, we needed. That's why we threw Brandon an inning once we saw that we were going to be in the play-in game. We mm-hmm. couldn't do anything about it. And we started him 1 inning on Friday at Monroe and then pulled him because we were really out of starters. We knew Jack Burke was in some trouble again and doesn't need surgery, but needed to be scratched potentially. And mm-hmm. so, you go into that tournament or the weekend before trying to prepare for that tournament, and you know Gunnar can't start, you know Jack Burke can't start, so you sit up at night trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to solve this? And when we saw we couldn't better our situation, we started him an inning and then pulled him, and then we had to come back behind him with Grant Cox, who hadn't had a lot of starts, but Grant did a great job too. All our starting pitching got us off to a good start. It's just a difference maker, I think, was in the bullpen in game one. It was good. Game two, it was okay. It wasn't good enough. And then the last one, we gave up 6 runs out of the bullpen.
Yeah, speaking of Grant, I mean, in that second game against Georgia Southern, who was the number 2 seed in the tournament, you couldn't have asked any more out of him. He gave you 7 2/3, which was the longest of his career.
Yep.
Through, I think, 96 pitches and only gave up a few runs. So you couldn't ask for more than that from him.
No, I mean, he got to 96 pitches. It was so hot down there. We had a righty up there that, the chart showed was bad against sliders or cutters, and we had Mike Lamont in the bullpen fully fresh. He's got a good cutter, and so we brought him in, and strike one, swing and miss in the cutter, swing and miss again in the cutter, and then the buried cutter 0-2, he barely nicked it, and it kind of rolled up the line, and we threw it to where Handsome had to come off the bag a little bit, and it gave him a little momentum. And that was the difference maker. You don't want to blame it on one person as much as one play, if you will. Right. I think that was the play right there that flipped the whole momentum on us, because we had to burn more arms and then lose a game, go to bed a loser. Now the next game is do or die again. You've just been in a do or die game, right? If you take care of that one, you win that one. You get in another one, you win that one. Now you've got a day of rest. Then now maybe Perrin and those guys can come back. And so that was the plan, but it shifted on us. And again, like you said, it's kind of the microcosm of our whole season.
Well, for what it's worth, though, it was an exciting game, a really fun game to watch, that Georgia Southern game. So then you move on to the elimination game against Troy. You took the lead early, which was, you wanted to see how the team was going to respond to that heartbreaking loss, and they really came out, put 3 runs on the board real quick. So things got off to a good start again.
Yeah, no, I think we did the things that we needed to do to win. I think the biggest issue that's really, hurt us all year is just not a consistent bullpen. And when you get good starting pitching and you get hitters that give you enough runs to win, the onus now falls onto the bullpen. And, the bottom line is our bullpen just wasn't consistent enough throughout the year. It's not the onus on one person as it is in the bullpen. And that's the one thing we've got to do next year is build a consistent bullpen.
So you found yourself down 10-3 in the game, but to the guys' credit, they kept on fighting. You scored 2 in the 8th, 2 more in the 9th, and then Todd hits a bomb for the final out of the game. If that thing goes over the wall, you're looking at a 1-run game. So to the credit to the guys, they just kept on competing and kept on fighting.
Well, they didn't quit all year with all the injuries we had and all the plugging in and moving here and moving there. And man, it was so difficult, even all the way to the last game. Oren slides in and needs 10 stitches in his hand, so we lost him in that at bat in that last game. We let him have 2 to 3 at bats, but it wasn't playing the way he needed it to play. But you're right, But we refer to that all the time as relevant work. When you come in out of the pen, get your work to be relevant. It doesn't matter if you're down by 5. Don't ever look at it as mop up, because you don't know when your team's going to make a run, right? And that's what I mean by that. We give up 6. And then we make a push all the way to that ball that's hit off the wall. To be quite honest with you, the push should have won us the game. But it was the relevant work that wasn't done while we were down that led to the loss. So that's why you have to be careful, and we call that don't play according to the scoreboard. We try to train them throughout the fall not to look at the scoreboard. We don't even cut the scoreboard on in the fall because we don't want them looking at the scoreboard, because the scoreboard's telling you're losing. So, okay, what do you do now? Do you shut it down? Do you stop fighting? Do you quit? What we want them to do is when you come in as a pitcher, you got to have relevant work, man, because if you have relevant work, if we had trimmed that to maybe 3 runs instead of 6, we win. If we trim it to 1, if we trim it to 2, but we don't. We let them tack on 6. Then we make our push, and then the push is irrelevant.
Coach Robichaux will join us again later on in the show to talk about the future of Ragin Cajuns baseball. But up next, track star Dominique Williams.
Integrity, together, discipline, effort, time, 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 integrity, together, discipline, effort, time.
If you're happy and you know it's Zydeco. If you're happy and you know it's Zydeco. If you're happy and you know it, then your feet will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it's Zydeco. If you're happy and you know it, mange. If you're happy and you know it, mange. If you're happy and you know it, I think I will help you show it. If you're happy and you know it, mange.
Look at me in the eye. They bleed just like you bleed. There is no apprehension. There is no fear. Bottom line, they got to come to us to get this done. All right, we decide what happens. We dictate what happens on that field today. Together on three. 1, 2, 3, together.
Welcome back. Time now to introduce you to a track star on and off the field, Dominique Williams.
My name is Dominique Williams, and I'm a junior on the Louisiana track team. Track and field, I started my 8th grade year, way back when, you know. My coach, I was actually running back then doing the 400 meter. I threw a little bit, and, you know, just kind of wanted to do it. It was really fun looking. My sister did it, so I wanted to play a sport with her. Funnily enough, the whole track season I had been running 8th grade year, and then the last meet, like championship meet, my coach was like, take this and just chunk it. It was a shot put. I was like, okay. So apparently I got the little meet record when I did that, so that was really cool and fun. And going into high school, you know, I just kind of was like, I did shot put in middle school, I can go do it in high school. And apparently I was pretty decent, you know, so I kind of just kept with it. And it was really just a level for my life. Winning weight throw Sun Belt champion was really amazing this year because starting in the summer, I kind of trained with one of my good friends all summer long, really perfecting technique and kind of getting stronger. And you know, it was tough at first. I was trying to work on my technique, trying to get things down, what would work for me. And you know, at the beginning of the year, it did not start as I wanted at all. But slowly but surely, my coach helped me out, you know, and we got there. And it really meant a lot to kind of see the fruit of my labor kind of flourish. It was kind of crazy because it was just like, I was just trying to push myself. I was like, you know, there's a guy right behind me. I really got to go. I really got to get in there. I got to, you know, I got to be what I can be. You know, on my 5th throw, I was just kind of like, wasn't feeling that great, but I was like, I got to put everything into this. So I go and I'm like, oh wait, that went pretty far. So, you know, it's always the ones that feel easiest that kind of go the farthest. So it was really awesome. And when I was like, I don't know, through 1996, I think it was, you know, that really felt like, okay, I think I solidified this moment. And like when they called the end of the event, I was just like, dang, I did it. You know, it's just kind of like what I've been driving for. My goal for this whole season was there, and I achieved it. Going to regionals really means the world to me because it means, 1, I was top 48 in my event. 2, it means that I have worked hard, you know, in that event, which a lot of people sometimes think you can't do weight throw and hammer throw and be successful in both. But you know, I'm proving so many other people that you can do both, and it really means a lot that, you know, this is my sophomore season outdoors, so I still have 2 more years, and so I'm really glad and proud of myself that I was able to do this year. You know, the sky's only the limit from here. I really love to read. That's something that a lot of people can kind of take advantage of because I'm an athlete and things like that. I'm really studious. Some people might know that because my teachers might know that, but not many people do know that because I'm very involved, so they think, you know, wait, you have a good GPA? Like, yeah, I have a decent GPA. So that's always good. And, you know, I think my biggest thing that nobody really knows about me is kind of that I just kind of, every time I go into a situation, I can be very defeatist on myself, even though I can seem very cheery. So that's something I always struggle with, self-confidence. So it's something that a lot of people say, oh, Dom, you're so like confident, you're so this, you're so that. It's like, it does not come easy. A lot of people can say that, you know, it's tough sometimes to really believe in yourself and try to make yourself do better. Winning Homecoming King was a shock. I was standing there at the little ceremony like, wow, she just called my name, because it was like just kind of like, I paused for a second, I was like, man, that's crazy. And I was kind of alone there because I was just like, you know, I was just trying to make homecoming court in the first place. So it was really great to do that. And it's funny enough, my brother was homecoming king at LSU, and so that was always really cool. So I get to tease him now that I was the first one here, and you know, so I got a little bit more fame than he did. So SAC has been a great part of my life. We do a lot of community service, which I love to do. We give back to the kids, we give back to our community. We help out other Sunbelt schools when they're having trouble. So that's always a great part of my life, because you know, a lot of leadership things can come from SAC. This past year I was president, and that was an amazing experience. It was great to try to lead my peers and try to help them achieve goals that they had, and also just create a better environment here for all the student athletes. That's really our #1 goal, the student athlete experience.
Coming up next on the season finale of Inside Louisiana Baseball, head coach Tony Robichaux recaps the season.
Integrity. Together. Discipline. Time. 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 Integrity. Together. Discipline. Time.
To perform, you need speed, skill, strength. With every muscle, every move, you push your body to reach its full potential. But sometimes you just can't push through the pain. That's when you know it's time to address it. So when injury puts you on the sidelines, trust us to get you back in the game. Lourdes Sports Care, the team behind your team.
If you're happy and you know it's Zydeco. If you're happy and you know it's Zydeco. If you're happy and you know it, then your feet will surely show it. If you're happy and you know it's Zydeco. If you're happy and you know it's Monge. If you're happy and you know it's Monge. If you're happy and you know it, nothing God will help you show it. If you're happy and you know it's Monge.
At the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, our Ragin Cajuns spirit goes beyond athletics.
Look at me in the eye. They bleed just like you bleed. There is no apprehension. There is no fear. Bottom line, they got to come to us to get this done. All right, we decide what happens. We dictate what happens on that field today. Together on 3. 1, 2, 3, together.
Welcome back to Inside Louisiana Baseball, joined once again by the head coach Tony Robichaux. And coach, this is the last show of the season, time to put a bow on 2019. The program has very high standards for its success, whether that comes from the fans, the administration, the dugout, the locker room. You addressed some of that on the radio Saturday morning. And I want you to just kind of summarize what you were trying to get across there as far as standards go.
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of like a high jump bar, right? I mean, you can set it real low and jump over it every time, feel good about yourself, or you can raise it up to a certain height that it becomes challenging to get over. And I call it privileged pressure. If you've never done anything, if you've never been good, or your standards are low, then your pressure that's on you, there's no privilege in it. we've created the pressure we have. We know when I got here, we were under probation and minus 2 scholarships for 2 years. There's nobody would ever dream would have been in Omaha, but in 5 years later, we got to Omaha. So, we've gotten the program one year where unanimously in every poll, we were the #1 team in the country. That's a high bar, right? And so what you've got to try to do is, we in our profession, we call it, creating a monster, and you try to slay the monster before he slays you. And so that's what we're trying to do right now. We've created a lot of success. We've created a high standard, and we don't want to go back to lowering the bar. But we've lowered the bar. This is not the level we want to play at. And as a head coach, I tell all younger coaches all the time, in this business, the players get the wins, you get the losses. So everything rises and falls on me. I mean, I'm the head coach. I'm the one that's got to take care of it. I'm the one that's got to fix it. I'm the one that's got to coach better. And that's what I have to do. You can't build a restaurant and not have the food ready. We built an $18.5 million stadium out there. You got to have the food ready. Mm-hmm. And right now, we're not playing at the standard we need to play at. Yeah, we've had some injuries and stuff like that, but to get better, you also can't start reaching for low-hanging fruit. Mm-hmm. Whether you had injuries, whether you had nothing, the bottom line is our standard needs to be at the lowest on Memorial Day. We need to be one of the 64 teams that come up on TV. That's how I've always, people ask me all the time, hey, Coach, is that pressure? And I tell them all the time, it's pressure when the outside world, your administration, your fans, your boosters, your players, or whatever, have higher standards than you have. Mm-hmm. And nobody will ever have higher standards than me because I've met my standard one time. We got to Omaha one time. I've failed 24 other years, right? Because that's my standard. It's to be in Omaha. It's to be standing with the 8 best teams in the country. And but to do that, you got to get to standing with the 64 first, and we're not. And that's why I've always told my wife, we're either going to have a good Memorial Day or a bad Memorial Day, and don't talk to me if it's a bad Memorial Day. Just leave me alone because, I'm not a happy guy when our name doesn't come up, because I think that should be your lowest standard, in my opinion.
Last question, kind of a two-parter, but. The senior class, everything that they've had to kind of endure this year, summarize that group, because we obviously don't have time to talk about each one individually, but the senior class, and then what gets you most excited about 2020 in the future?
Well, the big thing about the senior class I thought was so good is they hung on through so many injuries, and internally, when you see their faces and go, Jack's been scratched for the weekend, or, Danny can't play right now. And so you go through all that, but yet they stayed the course. I'm going to respect them for that, because in life, they're going to hit the same thing again. Not every business in the country is successful every year, and it's about being able to come back. The year we made those runs we made, we weren't good the year before we made those runs, but we got better. And so what I like about the senior class is that they stayed together, they worked through all their injuries. Nobody will know how much they played through: torn labrums, broken noses, 10 stitches, high ankle sprain, a bad hand, so much, a blown out UCL, a sprained UCL. They had to go through a lot, but they didn't quit. And then another thing I appreciate is that most of the time when you get caught in a year we're caught in, you got some people that have been kicked off the team. You got some rebels that got to go because you got trouble internally, right? And the greatest thing about this team is that we had no trouble internally. It was left out onto the field, and that at least I feel better not to have the season we had, but to know that we didn't have internal trouble. Because when you have internal trouble, man, that's hard to fix, and then that led to your year. And that's fixable. An injury, man, when a guy's got a sprained UCL, and there's not a whole lot you can do about that, right? But a rebel in your clubhouse, that hurts. And so that's what I was glad about. The most exciting thing about next year is you start the year undefeated. I mean, go to spring training in Major League Baseball, everybody's happy. I mean, why? They're all undefeated, right? It's the season that starts to wear down on you. And we have to fix things. We have to be better. We have to be better as coaches. I have to be better as a head coach. We got to get back to the standard because, again, you know, you go to a cheap buffet, you know, if your food's a little cold or a little late, you might not walk out, right? Because you know what you're paying for. But when you pay premium prices for a suite or, you know, or for a loge box or something, you know, you want the food ready. And so we understand that, and that's the thing that we're going to have to go after is hopefully we can stay healthy. We're going to get some guys back that redshirted that I think are going to help us. Our hitting system's in now. I think the way we have everything set up is really good. We're going to start to get ahead in recruiting because of putting a guy on the road full time. So I think, you know, we didn't get here overnight, so I don't know if I'll get out of it overnight. We'll get out of it, but we're going to get out of it because we think we've fixed parameters that I think are going to help us. And then being able to fix our pitching, get some quality starters in here. Our starting pitching this year was down because of injury. And that starting pitching, man, is important, and then the back end of that bullpen is important. And we had lost 7 of 9 arms to pro ball, and we lost a lot of the back end of the bullpen. And we've got to fix that. We've got to get that consistent again. And I think if we can do that, I think we'll be okay.
We'll be here to take you through all of it next year. Coach, as always, thank you, not just for today, but the entire season. Coming up next, we give thanks to those who made this show possible.
Integrity. Together. Discipline. Effort. Time. 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 Integrity. Together. Discipline. Effort. Time.
To perform, you need speed, skill, strength. With every muscle, every move, you push your body to reach its full potential. But sometimes you just can't push through the pain. That's when you know it's time to address it. So when injury puts you on the sidelines, trust us to get you back in the game. Lourdes Sports Care, the team behind your team.
Look at me in the eye. They bleed just like you bleed. There is no apprehension. There is no fear. Bottom line, they got to come to us to get this done. All right, we decide what happens. We dictate what happens on that field today. Together on 3. 1, 2, 3, together.
Thank you for watching Inside Louisiana Baseball. We hope you join us next year for what should be an exciting 2020 season. We leave you now with those who made this show and Inside Louisiana Softball possible.